Hi, welcome to Realtors Conspiracy Podcast, where we crack the code to real estate success. I'm here with Clinton Howell again, as per popular demand, to come and talk to us more about negotiating with realtors. Hi.
Hello. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Tell us about your experience with negotiating with realtors.
There's a lot to know, a lot to talk about here.
How do you treat other real estate agents during the negotiation? Because there's many different ways to deal with it, and I've seen a lot of different approaches.
So my approach is to be respectful,
okay,
professional, and to just negotiate ethically.
Okay.
Yeah.
How important to you is your reputation among other real estate agents?
They're all people, right? So my reputation is very, very important. It's the most important thing. Without your reputation, you're done, right?
Yeah.
So. I need to protect my reputation. I think it's valuable.
Yeah.
So not really sure how else to say it aside from I'm not going to do anything to jeopardize my reputation.
Yeah. And then why would you chose this approach, which is obviously the best approach, respect and professional. A lot of agents will go like the harsh way, the aggressive way, or all these things. But why do you think it's important to you to have that reputation?
Well, I think, these other strategies and tactics of, being rude or condescending or arrogant to someone or playing, games, maybe they work sometimes, but, when you're an experienced negotiator, it really comes down to knowledge. Knowledge is power. So what, if you're trying to buy a place or sell a place and you've got someone who's being super aggressive or rude or whatever, what are they actually saying? Like basically, if they're actually making legitimate points, then you got to look at that information, process it, and then respond. Like basically, I don't get intimidated by the rudeness or the arrogance or anything else. In fact, I'd rather just kind of chuckle about it. It's like, okay, you're throwing a tantrum. It really doesn't mean anything to me aside from obviously you're getting frustrated, right? Which is actually power for me. Right?
I see.
Because if you're getting frustrated, then I'm doing something right.
Yeah.
So, but at the end of the day, in a negotiation, the goal, if you're negotiating with someone who's worth negotiating with, is to come out with a win-win scenario for everybody. I'll put someone in their place if they're being rude. I'm not going to take that, I'm not going to be rude back at them. I'm just going to say, look, I don't appreciate the way you're speaking or going about this. And, if you want this negotiation to continue, can you please, conduct yourself more professionally?
Yeah.
Right?
I find a lot of realtors don't get that.
Yeah.
They'll go the aggressive way, the condescending way, the alpha way, and just to try to intimidate the other realtor to get the better offer. When you think about it, maybe that works that one time.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, if I were to be a realtor, I would not work with that realtor again. So then that injures the relationship you can have with his sellers or his buyers.
Yeah.
Where if I see an offer from this guy and I'm like, well, I'm not going to deal with him. I like Clinton, I'm going to deal with him. Do you think that happens, or is it just me?
I think some realtors, and I don't want to mention names, of course, but some realtors have been around a long time, and they've got a track record, and they can kind of rely on their statistics or their results or this sort of thing, and buyers or sellers may not really know that the way that they're behaving isn't the only way, just like I've been in business a long time leading up to my real estate career, and I've worked with over 3,000 clients. And when you're experienced, you learn how to treat people properly and how to have an intelligent adult conversation.
So you're not a cheap used car salesman. You're actually a business owner that became a realtor.
That's exactly true. Yeah, that is the case. And so I believe in talking about the real information, the real value. What is it that playing a game isn't necessarily at all relevant. We're trying to buy or sell a property, so let's talk about the property and talk about other properties that are related and put together a deal. It's pretty. If you distill it down to the bottom line, it's really just straightforward. Like, what's the property worth? Do you want to buy it? Do you want to sell it? Okay, here you go.
Yeah.
Right?
When you're negotiating with buying, actually, do you go directly on price? Do you always get the price to be lower, or what do you bring to the negotiation table?
Not necessarily. I just want to make sure my client gets good value. So, I'm always quite comfortable for someone to pay what a house is worth,
Okay.
or a condo or whatever, right? I'm never really recommending that you try and get a place for like way under value, except in cases if something's been on the market for like 4 months or something like that, so that's usually an indication that it's not worth the price tag. But sometimes you get into a unique property, right? And a unique property might be one where it's not for everyone. Like maybe it's a 2-bedroom house, or maybe it's done to a certain quality level, which is way beyond the typical house in terms of its contemporary or whatever it is. So maybe a unique situation, and it's not for everyone, which is why it's not selling. But in that case, I kind of want to have the conversation. How motivated is the seller? I mean, and basically be upfront. I mean, my client doesn't want to pay this price for this house. Are we going to waste your time bringing you an offer which is quite a bit less? Like, do you want to entertain that, or should we just move on?
Yeah.
Right? And they said, no, please bring your offer. I mean, the seller really does want it, and that gives you a lot of insight.
Yeah.
Right? And you're not saying anything mean or offensive or rude. You're just asking the question. Are we going to be wasting your time if we bring you a low offer? And I don't want your seller to be offended either. I'm telling you up front, so that we like the place. We think it's worth what we think it's worth to us.
Yeah. When you're on the other side as a seller, how do you protect your clients' needs and wants? How do you protect them in negotiating again?
It's trying to try and involve them, right? Like basically, here's the questions I've been asked. If I have the answer that I feel is right, I will give the answer. But if there's answers that I need to talk to my seller about, I'll talk to them and say, look, here's the questions I've been asked. What do you want to say about this, right? And basically, let's have the conversation. I mean, at the end of the day, it's really if I'm working with the seller, then I have that duty of care to represent their interests. And although I've got to be ethical with regard to the buyer, their interests really aren't mine.
No,
right?
That's true.
And vice versa. So, I don't want to make the critical decisions. I'll advise, here's what I would do, but I need you to decide what you would do. So I just like to try and provide the information. I give them, kind of how I feel about it, and then basically once I have their side of it, go back to the table. But
how long have you been in business before real estate?
In business for myself since 1995, so 23 years. Yeah.
So in all those years, what would be the tool or the book or something that really enlightened you in terms of negotiating and how to do the newer way, which is a nice kind way, not the...
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I've worked with a lot of very high net worth individuals, and sometimes people with high net worths are very powerful people, and they have a very assertive, aggressive way. So I've learned these personalities, and I've got nothing against anyone who's treating people with respect. I mean, whether you're aggressive or you're more passive or whatever you are, it's fine. That's you. I just think the bottom line is treat people with respect. Everyone deserves to be, respected until they lose that right to be respected. So if someone's, rude and aggressive and just disrespectful, then, I don't think it's right to, two wrongs don't make a right, as they say, go back to the golden rules, but treat people how you want to be treated. In terms of, so what I've learned in all those years of business is basically how to work with different types of personalities. And I think, there's a lot of people, a lot of more wealthier people are very meticulous. They're very detail conscious, and that's kind of, I'd almost go so far as to say that there seems to be a relationship between kind of OCD and wealth. When you stress over the smallest details. I mean,
I should be so rich right now.
But I think imagine, it's kind of a strength and a weakness that, and I'm kind of that way too. Like, I don't have the huge wealth to go with it, but maybe one day. But basically, being really cognizant of small details is what kind of separates, I think, people that have a lot of potential, in terms of wealth anyway, to others, right? So, and I think but those attention to details is also very useful in negotiating, because you're able to, look for details and compare properties and really analyze what's going on. And one person might walk into a room and say, oh, look, it's nice. I love these colors and da-da-da. And I'll walk into the room and see the cracks in the caulking and the drywall repair over there and the water damage over there.
Yeah.
So, and I can make a list of all these things and not throw them in someone's face, but look at my client's willing to offer this because they like the layout of the house. They like some of the things that have been done, like the new windows are great and the new roof we like, but we're seeing a lot of deficiencies with the drywall. We're seeing a lot of deficiencies with the trim. We're noticing some water damage in different areas here, and here. And these are going to require repairs, some further investigations. We're kind of, we need to work through these things. And I mean, in some cases, the seller and the seller's agent may not even realize some of the things that we're pointing out that are concerns to us. But I mean, everything affects the value, right?
Yeah,
so.
You should see me when I go to people's houses. I'm always looking at stuff.
Yeah, especially you're photographing everything.
So I see everything. I'm like,
yeah.
What? This? But yeah, what would be tips you would give to a new realtor trying to learn more how to negotiate properly and go the right way?
Research, lots of information. It usually always comes back to the same thing. So I mean, if you're going to go into a negotiation as a buyer, working for a buyer, really study the comparables, really take the time to go through the house and to study each room and to get a really strong sense of where there may be some deficiencies or things worth mentioning, and also look at things that are kind of maybe what are possible negatives about a property, right? Because these affect value. It's not so much to throw them in their face at all, but if your houses are super close to the property line and that's unusual in this price range, or if it's a 3-bedroom and most of the houses in this price range are a 4-bedroom, what are the things that can help you to negotiate, and basically, why should I be able to get the house for a bit less money, or like I said before, I mean, if the house has been on the market, it's only been on the market 2 weeks and it's priced really well, right at market value, then I pretty much tell my buyer, look, it's worth every penny. I mean, just offer them that price. It makes sense, right? Why try and lowball? You're just not going to get anywhere. A lot of times, actually, if you take something that's really well priced, you can usually always get a little bit off for sure. But if you try and lowball something that's well priced, sometimes you won't even get a sign back, and they don't want to. You'll offend them. They won't want to deal with you at all, and it just makes the negotiation even worse. Like I've actually seen that where I had a buyer client that insisted, no, I'm not paying anywhere near that, and they were like, offer this, and the seller signed it back at full price.
Yeah.
Right?
And then there's no budging.
Right, because then they're just like, I don't want to deal with you.
Yeah.
Right. So you need to be reasonable, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's always reasonable that even if something's priced right at market, if you're not competing, it's always reasonable to shave a little bit off.
Yeah.
But not it doesn't have to be offensive.
No.
And then if you're competing, then you need to. It's a whole different set of rules then, right?
Yeah.
When you're competing, you want to try and it's kind of a fine line you're treading when you're competing, because the best offer is going to be one with a solid or even the best price with no conditions, right? So there's no condition on financing, no condition on home inspection, whatever closing that the seller wanted. So basically, you're competing, right?
Yeah.
But there's risk in that too, because if you don't have a home inspection, you don't have a home inspection, right? So basically, you can't bring your home inspector through and scan for moisture and stuff in the basement and check the attic for water leaks, and you're just not getting that expert set of eyes to look at everything. So you're kind of taking a risk if you don't have the home inspection. So I don't love that part of it. So whenever it's possible, even if we're competing, I mean, I usually recommend, let's try and go maybe a tad higher on the price, but let's include that home inspection clause and say we'll get it done within 48 hours, so it's really quick, right? Yeah. But at least that way you can get the comfort of knowing, I've even seen, even as a seller, I had a condo that I sold last year in East Hamilton, and we had, how many was it, 9 offers. It was crazy. But in the offer that won, that there was no conditions, and when there's no conditions, it's like, okay, I mean, sure, it's great. Yeah. Great for my seller.
The seller.
But I mean, from the buyer's standpoint, it's a little bit risky. I mean, in this case, we had a great product, and there was no issues with the place. But I just that approach, it concerns me, right?
Yeah. Do you have a favorite book or author that you go to, business-wise, not necessarily real estate-wise, but to help you learn things?
No, not necessarily a favorite. I mean, I've been reading, I read some of the older stuff, Brian Tracy, and some of the newer stuff on social media, Gary Vee and things like this. But I try and take courses regularly. I'm reading blog posts. I'm studying what what the other agents are doing out there, and formulating my own opinions about if I think what they're doing is right or not right. And so it's a combination of all those types of things. And also too, I'm always asking my clients for feedback too. I mean, is there anything that I could be doing differently or more of that? Just give me your feedback. And I always ask for testimonials and things like that. So, but yeah, so it's really just, again, it comes back to the listening and not being offended by feedback. Like basically, if someone says, "Look, I think you've done a good job for the most part, but this or that," I'm like, "Okay, well, thanks for your honesty, and let me process that." And after I process it, I might completely disagree with them, or maybe I'll make a change.
But and then you grow.
But I'm not just exactly right, because I mean, there's so much to learn. There's so many different ways that the old adage, there's 9 ways to skin a cat. Well, it's true. I mean, there literally is tons of different ways to go about things. And but at the end of the day, I mean, as long as you've got good processes and good ways of doing things, and you're consistent, I think that's the key. Consistency really matters, and being organized matters a lot as well. So that I mean, I think you can get busy. Then when you're busy, sometimes your systems need to keep things on track, right? And but that's one of the risks of when especially in like a spring market or a fall market where it's very busy. One of the risks is just really making sure that you stay on top of everything, right? Because you don't want to miss out on important things for your clients or opportunities for yourself, right?
Smart.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Welcome.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for tuning in to Realtors Conspiracy with Clinton Howell and Remax Escarpment. Awesome.